Hey guys, welcome back. I hope you're having an amazing day. Let's get right into the stories. The first one is an entitled people story. I've been using a mobility scooter since I was 15 after an accident left me unable to walk long distances without pain. Even now, 5 years later, a quick trip to the grocery store means bringing along my trusty scooter. Never did I imagine I'd end up fearing for my life right in the middle of the dairy aisle. It was a regular Tuesday evening when I headed to the Superstore to pick up some essentials. As I maneuvered my scooter down the aisles, grabbing milk and eggs, I noticed an older couple arguing with a store employee. Their loud voices and angry gestures were impossible to ignore. "This is unacceptable. Get your manager out here immediately," the woman, who I'll call Karen, shouted. The poor employee tried explaining he was just following store policy, but the couple wouldn't have it. Karen's husband chimed in with threats to call the district manager if the worker didn't comply. Sighing, the employee headed to the back, presumably to find his manager. Shaking my head, I continued my shopping, glad I wasn't on the receiving end of their tirade. I went down a few more aisles, grabbing pasta and sauce for dinner. But as I turned my scooter around, I came face to face with the still fuming couple. "You, kid! Come help us and get this useless employee fired!" Karen yelled. I was so startled I nearly dropped my groceries. "Excuse me?" I stammered. "Don't act stupid," her husband snapped. "Get over here and tell this moron to honor our coupons so we can get our damn groceries for free." I frowned, unsure what to make of their bizarre request. "Sorry, but I can't do that. You'll have to sort it out with customer service." I tried moving my scooter around them, but Karen blocked my path. "Don't you dare ignore us," she shrieked. "We know the law, this is discrimination, and we won't stand for it." Now I was really confused. Discrimination against coupon abusers? But I knew better than to argue with an unhinged Karen. "Ma'am, please just let me pass," I said evenly. "I don't work here and I can't get involved." That's when things turned violent. Karen's husband lunged forward and grabbed my scooter's handlebars. "You're gonna do as we say or you'll regret it," he growled. I tried backing up, but he had an iron grip. Karen circled around, and before I knew it, her hands were around my neck, squeezing. "Teach you to disobey your elders," she hissed in my ear as I gasped for breath. Panic flooded my veins. I tried screaming, but no sound came out. Karen's long nails were digging into my skin while her husband rocked my scooter forcefully from side to side. "Please," I choked out desperately. Through my blurred vision, I saw people stopping and staring, but no one intervened. Typical bystander effect. "Give us those coupons or the brat gets it," Karen's husband threatened an employee who looked scared out of his wits. I knew I had to do something fast. Summoning all my strength, I slammed my elbow back into Karen's chest. She let out a shocked yelp, loosening her grip just enough for me to slip out. "Help! Call cops!" I yelled hoarsely to the crowd. Enraged, Karen's husband shoved my scooter violently, sending me crashing to the floor along with all my groceries. Milk exploded and pasta cans rolled everywhere. Before I could react, he was on top of me, landing punch after punch while screaming obscenities. I tried shielding myself, but his blows still landed painfully on my arms and torso. Through swollen eyes, I suddenly saw the employee from before running toward us, security in tow. They tackled Karen's husband, dragging his fists away from my battered body. As they restrained him, the employee helped me up. "The police are on their way," he said. I clung to my banged-up scooter, shaking from adrenaline and shock. Karen was also detained, though she kept insisting they'd done nothing wrong. Soon the cops arrived, and after getting my statement and speaking to witnesses, they slapped handcuffs on the couple, charging them with assault, attempted robbery, and disorderly conduct. I gave the employees a grateful look, knowing I probably wouldn't be breathing if they hadn't rushed to help. The scene of spilled groceries and toppled displays was a blur as EMTs checked me for serious injuries before letting me call my parents. Later at the police station, I found out the couple had been trying to use expired and fraudulent coupons, throwing a tantrum when they didn't get their way. Then they targeted me, thinking I'd be an easy manipulation target. Little did they know I don't cave to bullies. The police reassured me these violent criminals would be locked up for a good long time after this. I decided to press charges to make sure justice was served. No way should they get away with assaulting disabled people and terrorizing innocent grocery workers. My parents fretted over me for days after, hardly letting me leave my room. Honestly, I was pretty shaken up myself. I used to think of grocery shopping as a mundane chore, but now I'll never look at those fluorescent aisles the same way. It saddens me that people like Karen and her husband even exist, but I refuse to live in fear and let them steal my independence. After my bruises healed, I went right back to that same superstore, mobility scooter and all. I smiled proudly as I filled my basket, comforted by the extra security now on staff. Let that be a lesson to all Karens out there. Don't mess with people just trying to go about their lives. We don't take bullying lying down. The next one is a pro-revenge story. My former boss is the worst human being I have ever met. He did all sorts of things to mess with anyone he did not like. So a while ago, I was at a family event in a local park, walking with a young boy from our family who is developmentally disabled with Down syndrome, Ben. Ben does fairly well, all things considered, but he has always been sensitive to anyone making fun of the way he looks or his condition. We were just having a good time on our little stroll, Ben and I both enjoying the day. Along comes my boss walking toward us. I will call him Rob. I cringe at seeing him, but smile and say hello to play nice. Rob said, "There's something you do not see every day. A pair of ugly retards walking together." Ben bursts into tears as Rob laughs and walks off. I deal with Ben and ignore Rob. I'm extremely upset and trying to calm Ben down because for a few minutes, he was totally distraught. Finally, I get Ben to focus on how he has me and a lot of other awesome friends and family, and that Rob is a stranger, and what he thinks does not matter. We walked some more, and I saw that Rob was at the park with his wife and teen daughter having a cookout, and he had apparently been on his way back to his family from a trip to the toilet when he saw us. Back to being extremely upset, I went back to our gathering and talked to an adult cousin of mine, Jake, telling him what happened. Jake wanted to get revenge on Rob, but I reminded him that this was my boss. I did not want Rob to be able to know the revenge had anything to do with me, because then he would make my work life even worse than he already had. So Jake asked me for anything I knew about Rob that might help. I told Jake a bunch of things about Rob, but the relevant information here is that Rob liked to drink a particular kind of locally made beer at a certain bar. Rob had talked of having drunk there on the previous Friday night while his wife and daughter were away visiting her family. Also, Rob had recently told a story at work about his wife's obsession with a particular little green fictional character. Let us call it Yabiboda. It turns out his wife kept a stuffed Yabiboda on their bed at all times. I was not there for the revenge setup itself because I did not want Rob to see me, but Jake filled in the details afterward. It was basically this. Jake approached Rob and put an arm around his shoulders and tried to kiss him. Rob pushes him off. Rob asked, "What are you doing?" Rob's family is now paying attention. Jake said, "I am just so excited to see you, sweetie. Friday night was so amazing." Rob asked, "What are you talking about?" Jake replied, "Seriously, you are going to act like you do not remember now? I know you were a bit tipsy after all of those specific local beers at the local bar, but certainly you remember what happened later." Rob said, "Nothing happened later, or ever. I do not even know your name." Jake said, "Really? You were screaming it on Friday." Rob, turning red, said, "You lying son of a—" Rob's wife, interrupting, said, "Listen, I do not know who you are, but this is my husband. I am sure you have him mistaken for someone else. Please just leave us alone." Jake said, "Oh no, I am not mistaken. We had the best sex ever on Friday night, and now he is acting like he does not even know me." Rob's wife said, "I told you this is my husband. You are mistaken." Jake said, "Oh, maybe I am. I guess it was someone else who took me back to his place on Rob's street and had great sex with me on the bed right next to Yabiboda. Sorry." Jake turns and walks away. Rob's wife exclaimed, "Oh my God, Rob, what is wrong with you? You are gay now? Really?" To make a long story short, Rob's wife was not happy with him anyway, and this was apparently the tipping point that made her file for divorce soon thereafter. Rob frequently complained at work in the following months about how he did not care about his wife, but really missed his daughter, and how much it sucked to live in his new place compared to his old home. Every time he complained about his lack of a home life at work, I knew he did it to himself when he was mean to a developmentally disabled kid. The best part is he never figured out I was involved at all. The next one is a petty revenge story. This happened back sometime in the 2010s. I forget the exact year. It was back when daily housekeeping was the default for hotels, and the only way to turn it down was to hang the Do Not Disturb sign on your door, or tell the front desk to add your room number to the no housekeeping list. When I travel, I always refuse housekeeping unless I'm in the same hotel for more than a week. Well, in one instance, I managed to end up with a couple of days off in the middle of a job, and since I'd been sleeping poorly, I decided I'd rather just stay in and catch up on rest than go out and about during the day. So imagine my surprise and disgruntlement when housekeeping knocks on the door on day one. I get up, get to the door right about the same time that they're letting themselves in, and was about to ask them why they're ignoring the D&D sign when I realize it's not on the handle anymore. I ask them for a new one, and watch as they pull one from their cart, hang it, and apologize for the disturbance. Next day, the same exact thing happens. Only this time, by dumb luck, I wise up to the issue. As I'm walking out to get lunch later on, I happen to spot one of my colleagues pulling the sign from another colleague's door. This guy is a known prankster who no one likes for exactly this reason. Cue revenge. I know that he's the kind of guy who basically ignores hospitality staff at every possible chance, including things like walking out of a hotel without checking out and just leaving his keys in his room. It just so happens that this is one of those hotels that has a little card you can hang on your door to order breakfast. It gives you a place to indicate what time you'd like it delivered and check boxes for what you'd like. At the bottom, you write your name and room number. Let me tell you, it's not hard to get someone's room number from the front desk when you're traveling together as a group. And we had to leave the hotel the next day around 4:30 a.m. to get to the airport. So the night before departing, I selected a 7 a.m. breakfast with all the fixings. Eggs, sausage, bacon, a breakfast sandwich, fresh fruit, juice, a large coffee, you name it. And I put that hanger up on his door, with his name and room number on it. When I did the math, it looked like it would be about $60, including fees, tax, and automatically added tip. Sure enough, the colleague didn't bother checking out, which meant that no one would have time to see that there was a large breakfast on order. And when his bill got emailed to him a couple of days later, he was livid. Rooms are paid for by the company. Incidentals? Not so much. That breakfast went straight to his credit card. The next one is a malicious compliance story. So this happened over 30 years ago when I was 16 in the 1980 IGS. In those days, there were adverts in the press for a record club. This is actual physical albums, where you could get some albums free by signing up and then get sent 3 a month after that, which you had to pay for by a money order within 30 days, or get charged interest. So I used it for a few months and it was okay. But then there was less and less good choices, and I wanted to cancel the subscription. Each month I got the albums, I could return them in prepaid plastic envelopes. But for the first few months, I kept the albums so had a load of spare prepaid envelopes, important for later. When the quality of albums went down, I just sent them back, but this was becoming a nuisance since it was getting close to when I was due to go to college and move away from home. I contacted the company to cancel the subscription, but that's when they nuked me by saying that I'd agreed a 36-month rolling contract from each agreed purchase. Waiting 3 years to get rid of this was not an option because I'd need to return every month to my parents to return the albums. I told them I was moving away. They were not interested, thinking they had me, and they did. They told me to send anything back I did not need each month and pay for what I kept, and they would start the ending of my contract from when I stopped buying albums. I made it clear I had stopped, cue the malicious compliance. I thought about all the things I did not need, that I could send them apart from the garbage albums I was being sent each month. My dad did building work on the side of his main job, so we hardcore and cement in abundance at the back of the house. So I got one of the first plastic prepaid envelopes and filled it with hardcore and wet cement, waiting for it to set. It was almost too heavy for me to carry to the post office, but I got it there. The company had to pay by weight for whatever was in the envelope, so it would have cost a lot. I phoned them 2 weeks after that. I mentioned I had quite a few envelopes, and they wisely decided to cancel my account immediately. If it looks too good to be true, then it is. I learned that at 17. The next one is an entitled people story. Welcome aboard Karen Airlines with direct service to entitlement land. Mom has been a flight attendant for many years. She loves her job, and I think she's the best flight attendant ever. Might be just a hair bias, though, LOL. But there's been a few Karens to test her patience, and one happened just before Christmas, aka one of the busiest times in the land of travel. Part of Mom's job involves the emergency exit row, located in the middle of the plane, where the wings are. Flight attendants must explain how to open the door and get verbal confirmation from those sitting in the exit row if they're able to assist in case of an emergency. If they're not, then the flight attendants will find someone else to swap. You also have to be above a certain age to sit in the emergency exit row. Mom tells me that people are great about this. Most people anyway. Boarding is just about finished, and it's Mom's turn to do confirmation. She heads to the emergency exit row to do the confirmation. When she gets there, she notices a kid, maybe 11 or so, sitting in the window seat. Mom comes up and says, "Hi, sweetie. Just so you know, you're not supposed to sit here." The little boy, Toby, told Mom, "My mom said I can sit here." Mom isn't one to gloss over things. She's going to tell it to you straight. And if you're a kid, she's going to be more gentle about it. She said, "I'm sorry, sweetie, but in case we need to open the door, we need people strong enough because the door is really heavy. Plus, you need to be sitting with your mom." Toby nods, disappointed but polite. Mom checks his ticket. She and Toby head to where Karen is sitting. "Excuse me, ma'am, but your son was sitting in the emergency exit row." "Oh, it's okay. I told Toby he could sit there," Karen said before going back to her phone. "Ma'am, it's not safe for him to sit there," Mom explained. "He needs to sit with you." "There's other adults sitting in the row that can watch him." "I said it's fine," Karen snapped. Mom thought, "Okay, your warranty on my politeness has officially expired," and proceeds to say in a firm tone, "Ma'am, you're required to sit with your son in case we have an emergency and he's not old enough to sit in the emergency exit row. I understand if he wants the window seat, but he will sit with you. Otherwise, I will have the captain come out." Karen, realizing she had lost, glared at Mom as Mom found Toby's seat. The man that was sitting there explained that he had agreed to swap with Toby when Karen asked him to, not realizing that age restriction. He apologized and moved back to his seat. Throughout the flight, Karen snipped and sniped at Mom, making comments about her destroying her little Toby's dreams, and, "You must be proud getting paid peanuts." Mom felt sorry for poor Toby as he was looking pretty mortified. She did her best to cheer him up throughout the flight. At the end, he apologized to Mom, which made her sad. The next one is an entitled parent story. I, 31F, am due to have my first baby in just over 5 weeks' time. My pregnancy was a surprise, and it's been a difficult 8 months thus far. Although low risk, I've experienced every symptom you can imagine, from intense morning sickness to migraines and carpal tunnel syndrome. I've also faced some pretty intense discrimination at work, despite maintaining a high rate of performance throughout the year. All of this to say, it's been a rough year. I've had little support from my family this year, and their nonsense has seemingly known no bounds. Since around May, they've been asking my partner and I to make the 10-hour drive interstate for Christmas so that we could spend it with them. This would be fine, but my doctor has repeatedly told me not to do this, as I'll be 36 weeks at that point and prone to blood clots. Despite this, they've continued to pester my partner and I about it. At one point, they proposed coming to us for Christmas, but then swiftly shut down their own idea when they immediately realized it would be an inconvenience to them. Recently, my dad was diagnosed with some health problems of his own, which he's been told is completely treatable with surgery and some medication. Regardless, I have called every other day to check up on him and to see how he's going. In the last few weeks, my mom has started telling me how awful birth was for her and every other woman on both sides of my family. I kid you not, every time she calls, she encourages me to plan a C-section and drops some new detail about a relative who had a traumatic birth experience. I have told her that her comments are unhelpful, and she's known for months that I don't want a C-section if I can help it. She constantly says things like, "If I had my time again, I'd plan a C-section," as if it's an easier option. I wondered why she started down this path until she started making comments about Dad's treatment plan and appointments such as, "We might be able to make it out to see you for a few days in January, but Dad might have to go to an appointment on the 18th and then again on the 31st, and then after that we can't visit for a while because Dad might need a surgery." I snapped and told her that I would not and could not plan the birth of my child around their schedule and that they shouldn't bother coming. They haven't even asked my partner or I if we even want extended family present directly after birth. We don't. I was so scared about the birth and was starting to feel somewhat comfortable with the idea of it all when my mom started making these comments. Every time I've told her that I'm upset about their comments or their lack of normal, healthy support, my mom has told me that I'm just hormonal and that everyone else has their own thing going on. I'm so sick of their crap and ready to cut them off for some time. I feel like they've made the birth of my little girl all about them. They've compared the potential surgery my dad might need to my birth, talking about catheters and IV drips like I won't need a similar setup, particularly if I go down the C-section route. When they did come to visit earlier in the year, they made comments about what I was eating. I was 24 weeks pregnant AF that point. One of my unhealthy options was a few chocolates after dinner. I don't even know what to say or do. All of this has made me reflect on my childhood, and I can't help but feel sad about that too. I've spent the last few weeks just crying about it all, and I'm so tired of venting about it to my partner. Thanks for reading if you've come this far. I just needed to vent. Thank you for watching. I would really appreciate it if you could like the video and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already.